Hello, everyone. I thought that I'd do something a little bit different today and speak about my own personal experiences with going online for the first time as a player on Foundry and on Twitch live, and encourage you that if this is something that you want to do or are interested in doing, but have been reticent to kind of get into it because you're afraid of messing up the game or disappointing your fellow players, that if you're with a good group, you have nothing to be afraid of. I've had this channel, I think, for about 4 years, something like that. I didn't check it up beforehand to see how long I've had the channel for, but um, I remember when I moved that my thought was, when I came here, that I would like to do something online. Unfortunately, we had dial up, or high speed, I guess, dial up, whatever. It felt like dial up. We had high speed, and I just wasn't capable of broadcasting online live at all. And I wanted to broadcast live, I wanted to broadcast on Twitch, just myself. And I wanted to play solo games. That was my original hope and my original intent. But as I said, the bandwidth, speed, the latency, everything was against me. When COVID hit, I tried to do it for work, and again, there was numerous problems with Starlink. And even just recording a YouTube video like I'm doing now and then uploading it, sometimes the upload would be 12 hours plus, and it would take up all the bandwidth. Starlink was a little bit better, but again, when it came to anything live, the latency was an issue, and I had sound issues, and there was just too much. And so I was afraid or reluctant to engage anyone and say, hey, I'm available to play. If you've watched the channel at all, you know that my preference, of course, is to play around the table. I think that that's the most dynamic way. It's engaging, but it's not practical for everybody. Now, not everybody has fiber op, but if you do, then you're pretty much set. I would encourage you to get a mic. I have an Elgato 3. Before that, I had a Blue Yeti. I do find that the Elgato 3 is sufficient for my needs and was an upgrade. I don't know what Elgato is up to now and what the current mic situation is, but that is sufficient, and I get a good sound out of it. Because of work, I have access to the lavalier mics and the GoPro 2s, which I'm using at the moment. And I'm just using my iPhone 13. And again, this is fine. I do it in cinematic mode just because I can. It does take up more space, but this is what I'm using at the moment. I have a tripod, it's set up, and as you see, I'm not in the gold chair, but I have a gold pillow, so I feel like at least I have something. So I feel like I had the right equipment. Uh, I have a pretty good Mac. And whether you're a Mac user or Windows users, as long as you have a good camera. Now, common wisdom says if you have the capability of using your phone, use your phone as your camera because it will be better quality. But just make sure that you get your angle right in comparison to everyone else. So what happened with me was I had made this promise, and in the previous video I said that I had made this promise to myself, this New Year's resolution, that I would either upload more videos or definitely get involved in an online game. And I said that I was privileged enough to have been invited to participate. And I was familiar with the streamer, and I was very um, how would you say? The first word that comes to my mind is moved. I'm not sure if that's. I was touched. Uh, it was nice to be considered as a possible player. And uh, reaching out to me was something that was very special. I'm not sure if, and I've never asked the person if they had seen any of my stuff on my own channel, but it was nice to be invited. And I think if you're a hobbyist and you're doing online games and you're not a professional GM, but you are skilled at being a GM and want to broadcast, then I think that it's a good thing for you to kind of pay attention to kind of your Discord servers or Reddit, but I think Discord is much more personal. Maybe your followers, people who you know, who you've interacted with and trust. Maybe you should check them out. But if you are a GM and you're looking for a group, invite people that you trust. And I felt immediately that I was trusted to be part of this group. Um, and the group started, and because of circumstance, this person felt that it was appropriate to have a fifth player, and so again, it was very nice to feel wanted and to feel like I could contribute to something that is online. So the channel that I was invited to is Frank's channel, Raldanash, and he has about double my subscribers, so high 600s on YouTube, and he broadcasts fairly often on Twitch. And actually, as I'm doing this, I know that he's playing, I believe, Fallout on Twitch at this very moment. And so enjoys the medium of Twitch. And so immediately I felt comfortable knowing this individual's work. And so I was able to kind of watch and catch up. And I think if you're shy, watch videos and don't watch kind of the Matt Mercers and all of the people like Sam and others, and say, oh, I want to be like them. And I believe that I said yesterday, be yourself. And if you are with a good group, and I think that most groups online are, that view themselves more as hobbyists than as really trying to grow the channel. Now, I'm not saying that his channel is not trying to be grown by any means, but there doesn't seem to be that same level of pressure that I've seen, say, in other games that I've seen online, where there does seem to be a certain amount of pressure to perform, to be uh, a sellable personality on an online game. So, being marketable. I don't think that we shouldn't try to put our best foot forward, but I think that we should be honest with ourselves. The first thing is, don't think that you're going to mess up the game. in Foundry, and I have dabbled in Roll20, that it's pretty idiot proof. Yesterday, again, was my first live game, and actually my first online game. No, it wasn't my first online game because I played with my group that was an hour and a half away. I played for about half a year online with them sporadically, but it really was, they had an iPad set up in their dining room, and I was broadcasting through my crappy internet, and so it would break up and stuff. But that wasn't live, and it wasn't shared with anybody. This was real, and and I did go in a little bit more nervous than I thought I would, but it was okay. Um, Everybody who was there was before we launched live was very quick to say we're all learning as well, and don't be shy to ask questions. And so there was a comfort, an immediate comfort that you know um, we were all not broadcasting to millions of people, but to have fun, and hopefully somebody else will watch and enjoy what was being shown, and being able to observe a game and to learn as we go. So I felt very much like I was role playing, but I was also providing for everybody an opportunity to kind of see, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. I've spoken many times, and you've seen, if you've watched many videos, that my memory is not the best. And so I felt comfortable. I took notes, and uh, I used post-it notes, which don't stick to anything. I don't know if this is because it's too old, or maybe I got it at the dollar store or something like that. But I have all my notes here, and I made sure that beforehand I knew everybody's name, and what their real name was, just in case. And I took notes on my own character to have it right in front of me. And I also had a sheet that was produced for Conan by, I believe, one of the players. Yeah, Toby produced it, who plays Septimus. And this is an absolutely amazing resource. I didn't do it this way, but actually I found that during gameplay, um, I could flip it over. Now, I haven't watched the video through, so I don't know if when I flipped it over it made too much of a sound. That would be horrible. But most of the information here was actually provided in a player link where you could just click, and there were 4 sections that helped with melee, range, combat, how to spend momentum, and how to use fortune points, and just what various actions you could do at specific times. So standard, quick, um, reactions, stuff like that. So it was all right in front of me. And I was a little afraid when it came to fighting. And if you watch the video, you'll see me in my first fight, and in the initial question um, where Reldenash asks, you know, okay, what do you say? And you're the envoy. What are you going to say? What is your purpose? And of course, your mind kind of immediately is like, okay, I'm on. um, and so fortunately, I knew enough about the games that they had played previous, and that was another bit of intimidation. Was they had already been an established group who had played 3 games together. I don't know if they've done other games together, but I was moving into someone else's established family group. And so I'm sure that they were wondering how I would be. and I was, of course, wondering how they would be. But I had watched them play online, and so I knew that um, this was a good group of very friendly, comfortable people. And that meant a lot. So I think for you, if you're taking advice, make sure that you're with a group that you're going to feel comfortable with. Um, we talked about lines and veils, and that was good as well because we had a good discussion on our little thread, and it was a good discussion that covered a lot of different points, and we now have established boundaries which are positive and are meeting the needs of each individual who's online. So a lot of things are covered in the background, which you probably assume, but it's nice to have that confirmed as somebody who consumes watching online games and has consumed many, many, probably 2 years ago, and all the way. I think my first online game that I watched was the first episode of Critical Role Live. And I knew immediately, and I think everybody who watched them that first time knew that they would be a hit. Um, and and so since that time, I've really watched a lot and seen a lot of different ways of doing things. And again, I go back to what Pumpkinberry does on Table Story. I haven't really watched anything for a number of years now, but this great, but because they do many more narrative games, like blocking off when somebody isn't in scene, that the camera is blocked off and turns black so that you know who's in the scene at any particular time. It's very theatrical and it works really well. Um, so a lot of different type of people, and I think that you have to find your niche, but to be invited by somebody helps alleviate a lot of the anxiety. And probably if you're on a Discord server and you do enjoy um, either certain groups or certain games, that there's usually a thread of looking for group. Don't be shy to say, hey, I'd like to try this. And then maybe if you're a GM, suggest an initial kind of game that's not online to see if everybody's comfortable with each other, and that that group dynamic works, and make sure that everybody feels comfortable working with each other, especially if you want to grow your channel. Um, I don't think that it's wrong to want to grow your channel. I think that that's what the whole YouTube thing is about. I'm a hobbyist. Of course, I'd like to see more people watch, but I don't want to get to the levels where my job and my life are impacted by what I'm putting up, or as I've said recently, that constant need to produce. I only put stuff up when I really feel like I have something to say, and this, I think, is pertinent to some people. Being nervous about going online and messing up. So, um, here. I have yesterday's stream, and um, Durzo, Motaz, and Cryus were absolutely fantastic in welcoming me offline as well as online. And again, it was pretty seamless. Um, Good group of people. I can't speak highly enough of them. I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest, if they have their own channels. I haven't checked yet, and I probably should. Um, Frank is German, and I believe that he's working out of England. And his we have somebody from Europe who is with us. somebody from America, I'm Canadian, and another person who doesn't live that far away from Raldanash, or Raldanash, that they know each other, and Cryas plays quite often. I'm not sure about the other two, and Septimus, who wasn't on yesterday but will be, and I've watched him play, and very very knowledgeable about the Conan world, and I think many of us share common interests and are in this various groups, Discord groups that we all support and are all interested in terms of what their content is and what games they prefer to play. So, in that initial kind of encounter, going back to uh, kind of my initial reactions, I was nervous, but I just thought, okay, how would my character react? And beforehand, when I explained who my character was, I didn't go into great depth because I was afraid of what I would say about the character. Now, I'm going to read you my backstory. Now, my backstory is pretty dark, and so I do have the warning label on my on my channel, so you'll be able to kind of say, "Oh, it's 18 plus." So uh, I'm not going to put out what the warnings are, but uh, if if you've got a lot of PTSD, maybe you want to shut it off. So Shira was born in North Turin on the night of the Yellow Hand to a Hyborian merchant and a Kittite silk trader mother. It was supposed to be the opposite way around. It was supposed to be a Kittian merchant or silk trader, but the father was supposed to be Kittian and the mother was supposed to be Hyborian. And I made the mistake like 3 times, so I figured that it was meant to be. The Yellow Hand is a special date for uh, Erlicism, which is a religion in the time period or in Turin. And so uh, this holiday happens, and everybody born before kind of celebrates the single birthday on that day. And if you don't, uh, and there's something about if you don't live, uh, uh, something about if you die that there's a problem. Anyway, I forget offhand exactly what the detail was, but it was intriguing enough to say as the sun rose, she stopped breathing and the midwife declared her dead. But she breathed at a moment that spooked the old hag, and she prophesied that Shira was cursed. So, right off the bat, you have this cursed character. Well, I didn't want to talk about, the fact that she died breathing with a midwife and stuff like that. I didn't know that others would go in more depth about their characters. I thought I was pretty much going to state my character, so I was really short about how to describe my character. Anyway, she grew up knowing the faith of Erlicism, essentially very pragmatic. Erlich doesn't like anybody who's idle and wants constant kind of motion. This is why Turan is constantly looking to take over the world. That is their raison d'etre. And so that's what they do. And it follows Erlich and that type of um, meritocracy, I think is fair to say. So anyway, I didn't want Shira to be Hyborian, but I wanted the language, just in case. And I'm really in this kind of Chinese, not as much Japanese anymore, but kind of this Chinese phase. I'm watching a lot of Deng Hao, uh, uh, CGI stories, and my wife and I watch Chinese CGI stories every night for at least 2 to 3 hours. I know I'm really weird, and it's awesome. We gave up on Luffy at around 500. That stupid Fishman Island. We can't get past it. But anyway, and we haven't watched for a year, but we burned through 500 episodes. But now we've watched like 260 episodes of Dalu Duo and Heaven's Blessing, and just so many great. Uh, oh, uh, what's that one? Swallow? No, uh, is it Swallowed Star? Shallowed Star, something like that. Anyway, I can't remember because that's the way my brain works. But oh my gosh, that's friggin' awesome. And of course, we're reading in translation because there's no dubs. But it, the stories are fantastic, very cultivationist. So that's why I have this Kittian type of involvement. So she doesn't necessarily look like a Turian, but she is a Turian. Um, anyway, she grew up following that faith, but her parents were always on the move, a sign of great honor to the god who hates the idol. Yet, it wasn't simply due to the nature of trade, calamity always seemed to follow them. When Shira was 8, her parents finally gave up on this cursed child, leaving her by the southern slopes of the Kazankian Mountains. Now, oddly enough, that's where we are now, um, and just off the road of Kings. Well, I didn't want to get into that online because I was afraid, well, am I crossing lines and veils by talking about abandonment? And I guess in previous videos, that reticence of wanting to have red cards, lines and veils, and all that stuff certainly came to the fore as I was realizing as I was talking, well, is this going to be too much? And then is this not? So I was kind of questioning myself. I don't think that I needed to be as self aware. And so I encourage you to kind of, how do you ask your GM before you go online, how do you want me to introduce myself? Because you should provide something to them, and I had, but I didn't say, well, how much detail do you want me to get into? So anyway, she was unfortunately found by wealthy fundamentalist followers of Ehrlich who saw in her the potential for an orator and evangelist. She was cloistered and raised to be a priestess on the Feast of the Yellow Hand, which of course is a celebration day, so why would she not be priested on that day? So she went through the motions and was kind of reluctantly made a priest because she does have the ability to speak and certainly showed signs of great prowess um, in areas that would be beneficial to this group. But the sky turned dark, and upon the pronouncement of her becoming a priest, immediately a storm of another kind took place. Raiders arrived. They killed all but this 16-year-old who they used as slave for their amusement and domestic chores. They whipped her, hoping for submission, but Shira, um, I spelt it wrong there. Shira was stubborn and observant as the years went on. She was taken to Yazud in northern Zamora and watched the spiders hone their skills in assassination and manipulation. So, as I wrote, I was using kind of some lore that I thought was important. I think if you're going into a game, you know what the game is, and if there is a strong lore like Middle Earth or Conan, you owe it to yourself as much as to your fellow players to kind of at least your character have a mindset of what's going on. So anyway, so I was shy to talk about this kind of fundamentalism, the evangelism part. So, you know, I'm a priest, and um I'm probably putting a little bit more of myself in there because I'm not very keen on fundamentalism or any extremist, whether left or right. Um, I'm very middle of the road. And I don't think that that's wishy washy. I think that that's considerate of others. Um, and so I've seen uh, how potential people can be wrangled in by religion. Um, and uh, I don't believe in coercion. Uh, and so that's what's happened to her. And so I'm kind of speaking from a experiential point of view from real life into the game. Anyway, and so then, of course, she's taken in by these raiders and she's whipped and she's there for their amusement and domestic chores. Well, you can read the lines and veils there. Um, I didn't want to be explicit writing to Raldenash. I didn't want to get into it because I felt that was. So I was doing my own types of line and veils by saying, I'm not going to get into what happened to her, but use your imagination and that's sufficient. I think that's probably how I see most games being. Sometimes too much detail is not good. So, anyway, as the years went on, she was taken to Zamora and these spiders. Well, these spiders are, of course, a cult of uh, spies and with assassination in their minds, and from one fundamentalist group to another cultist fundamentalist group. So when she was 25, she found the opportunity to use a dagger she had hidden to kill the leader, her oppressor, and this group of evil cultists, taking his whip that she escaped and began to use those skills she had seen for many years. So I wanted to tie in, why am I using a whip instead of a sword? Or why this dagger instead of another dagger? Um, I just thought that that was important. And I think that if you're going online, this will help you feel comfortable because you'll know your character before you go online, but to leave enough room to discover who you are. So I this was where she's come from. Where is she moving to? And then I wanted to give an extra added bit of darkness, but also motivation. When I chose certain things on the character creation sheet, I knew that I wanted a whip. I knew that I wanted to be the face of the party, kind of, shared with Creus. Um, have a very high awareness and a very high agility, but persuasion, counsel, those were important for me to kind of be that type of character. So I I made sure that I put down, that uh, she will always remember the 2 weeks of cold she experienced before being taken in by the Ehrlichs. So this is when her parents left her. So 2 weeks bound and alone. I'm assuming that she had enough food to kind of get by, but it was not a fun experience for her. Yet it was never as cold as the looks on her parents' faces as they left her bound out of sight of the road. Their last words were, "You are cursed, child. If you live, pass the curse on to those who deserve it." Which is pretty dark. And I didn't want, again, when I was describing the character, I didn't want to get into this because it was like, it, am I going to get one of, because the other characters hadn't heard this. So I was afraid, are they going to be like freaked out by this? This is pretty dark. Um, but I think it makes for good storytelling in the future. It makes for kind of my mindset. So in that first scene, I know this took like 20 minutes to get to the first scene that I had initially introduced. I had it in mind that this is a very strong woman, a very strong character, somebody who is there for a reason. So the uh, the Asaurian prince from Karaja, Satabus, um, and people who had already watched knew about the twins and Neferit and Amumet and that kind of relationship. People may have known that Kosas and Yasmela uh, are kind of became the king, and then he died, and then she became queen. And so Satabus is there, and I didn't know how I was exactly going to be introduced, but I was introduced as being kind of somebody who would help get the party from point A to point B, and to be kind of someone who would end up speaking to the Hawk, an important character for what will be an incursion into the mountains and into these Shemite lands, and of course this is all part of the expansion that is Turian, right? So I just kind of felt that this character was strong, and so as long as you have it in your mind, you're going to be more comfortable. And as I went on, I became more comfortable until I had to roll dice for um, for combat. I think that the first roll was observation. Now, one of the things that I noticed was everything kind of blurs out as you press the dice, and you're trying to make sure that that everything on your screen. So I have a nice size screen. It's not massive by any means, but it's a good size screen, and I had all the zoom up top. I wasn't watching Twitch at all. I didn't watch the live stream at all. I didn't want to have anything to do with Twitch. I didn't want to kind of bog down my system. I had three other people using the internet at the same time, and so I didn't want Twitch and everything else. So I had Zoom up with the four individuals or five up top, and then underneath on one side I had the and I'm looking at it from my point of view, not your point of view, but on this side of me I had kind of the Foundry box, and then I had popped out my character sheet and put that on the side so that I could easily access all my roles and stuff. So, but you get kind of, I did, and I don't know about you, but I got glazed over like, oh, and so I'd see the dice roll and then I'd see numbers come up, but I kept on forgetting that the numbers were in the chat, and I looked at the numbers and I saw green and I saw gray, and being able to compute that fast. And part of that is because of my dyslexia and my ADHD. Processing it was kind of overwhelming at first. Um, but I succeeded, and things went well. And so when it came to this kind of combat role, I felt secure in what I was doing as a character, and felt that it was realistic what I was doing as a character, trying to whip and ensnare and take uh, the leader off off of the horse as they were trying to escape. My initial intention, Creus beat me to it, but we were both on the same wavelengths. And his character and my character are relatively similar, um, and yet we were able to complement each other. And I was really afraid that Creus, as the individual, might feel that I was imposing on kind of his role. Um, but I made sure that my emphasis was on uh, the personality aspect of the character, and that the other aspects are kind of, they're there and they're important, but so very conscientious about how other people felt on stream. But when I didn't, he had already killed the person who had taken the notes. Spoilers, by the way. And so anyway, so I got the person off the off the horse. That's all I'm going to say in terms of spoilers. And I'll make sure that in the beginning of this, I'll say that there's spoilers going to come up. I think that overall, when I was rolling the dice for damage, I need to understand what they look like and what they represent. I need to be able to say, okay, I got the momentum pretty quickly and understood that it was automatically banked. So I didn't have to press bank. I was worried that I might have to choose what to do, but this was all being done by the GM. So I was very comfortable with that. And that helped a lot. There was a point later on where I was advised to use fortune, and because my brain was working on a number of different things, I didn't click on the thing, but it all worked out. Um, Very mean of my fellow player who Durzo, who reminded the GM that there needed to be more damage on me. And that was fine. And I wasn't offended. I actually thought it was awesome because we were playing the way we should play. So I took a wound. I took 5 damage and took a wound. And that's good. It taught me a lesson. You are squishy. Don't don't get too squishy, and don't you know try to be the front person. I can't wait for Septimus to come back because hopefully they will take on that role. But it was good to kind of be injured and have that happen. Um, it was just a great time. I can't speak highly enough of that experience. So if you are worried at all, don't be. I think setting up your screen beforehand, making sure that you have a plan, making sure I spent a number of days just making sure that I was comfortable with Foundry, that I knew how to use it, and just so that I could navigate. I don't really like, and I've said this many times, I don't like getting out of being in the game and talking too much about rules. Now, I think Conan as a game, the D20 Conan by Modiphius, was made for the type of person who is constantly thinking about, okay, we add this, we add this, we add this, we add this. So uh, part of the game is the dialogue of, this is, you've forgotten this, you need to add this, have you added this? I don't know if it will ever settle into a narrative game where the punching of buttons will just be so natural that it's no longer intrusive. Um, but I felt good about the discussion because, as we all were saying, and even though they had already had 3 sessions, they were still learning. And I had, scoured over the Conan rules, watched a whole bunch of videos, watched all of their videos to get myself caught up, and that was enormously helpful. So I had the benefit of seeing the group in action before participating. And maybe that might bring you a little more comfort, is if you see somebody or you've been invited by somebody to participate, watch their stuff so that you can get a really good idea of how they play, how do they GM, and how do they react to problems or rules questions? Do they want to push the game forward? Um, I'm always very conscientious of the fact that when you're playing online with other people, I've seen this far too often, that people will hog the screen time, and uh, and I think I had a fair bit, and I don't think that it was disproportionate. I think everybody had a good um, kind of everybody had a great scene. Um, uh, Durzo particularly was spectacular, um, with a number of really awesome things going on, and I think that Cryus and I worked well together. Motaz was great with that with his character and the lore and stuff. So it was good, but I'm conscientious of hogging screens, which can happen, and I haven't seen it in the previous play that they had, so I knew that everybody listened to one another, and uh, so we came to a point where I had made a statement of something that I wanted to do, and then somebody said something contrary to what I wanted to do, and we fleshed it out. We talked it out. We just went. We just changed the way the scene worked, but that was good. Um, that dialogue and being able to say, okay, I'm not offended if we need to change this. This makes more sense, right? So and Ralden Ash was kind of leading in ways that you could tell were kind of, just little clues to make sure, that you kind of thought about what the implications of your actions were, and that's the mark of a good GM. So all in all, I think that was great. My notes, I wanted to say that my wife bought me this absolutely fantastic leather bound uh, book. It's I don't know. It's like five individual kind of booklets in there. I don't know what this is. Five by I don't know 6 by 4, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, and this I think I'm going to use this instead of the notes so that I have a running notebook for the game that I'm playing, and who knows, maybe there will be other games that I'm invited to. I don't have this great desire to go out and say, "Hey, I want to play." Um, I think that if people want to invite me to something else, people will invite me to something else. Um, and I've only got a limited amount of time anyway. I could probably only play twice a week. So I am playing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays live over at the school. And then I'm playing on Thursdays. And I don't think every Thursday is going, I'm not sure what the plan is. Um, but it's completely open. And so I'm quite pleased with being able to play my hobby, to experience a new system. The book should actually be in the mailbox in about half an hour. And and again, don't be reluctant or shy to experience something like this. If either the opportunity arises, don't don't be nervous about it. It's fine, and you'll be guided through. And if you're not guided through, maybe that's not the right group for you. There's so many videos on YouTube for the gaming industry, and uh, you will find comfort in finding something. So there shouldn't be any reason for anybody not to be able to play a game. If you want to play, there should be no issues. Um, and in terms of GMing, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to work toward uh, doing something solo. before I've constantly got stuck with, have I got the rules right? Am I going to get it wrong? I don't know if I'll ever do Twitch live. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. I've got a Twitch channel, and I just don't know. I don't know, but I'd like to try to do the GM side to see what that feels like. Because I must say, I feel like I'm a good GM when I'm with the kids. And I mean, these are 14-year-olds, 13, 14-year-olds. So they're a tough crowd. They're nobody's fool. And so they seem to be always surprised and they're very keen. I don't railroad them. I'm actually trying to teach them not to be on a railroad and to be more open. Uh, I think the biggest difference between the two groups, yesterday's group listened to each other, listened to the GM, and reacted to the environment and was asking questions about the environment. So we were very focused. What do we see? What's in front of us? How far away are they? Can I signal back? Stuff like that. Whereas the youth, my experience is they want to character develop as the game goes on. So, oh, can my character get this? You know, they're more ADHD than I am. Can my character get this in the future? Well, at the moment, we're opening up an airlock. No, no, no. Well, can I get a scooter? Can I get an air scooter? And so they're constantly thinking, and you've got to kind of reel them in a bit to kind of, okay, what do you see? What do you want to do? Where are you going to go in this spacecraft that you've opened up and is derelict? Where are you going to go? And trying to get them to envision in their minds the environment and to listen to each other. Uh, there certainly is a big disconnect between uh, my experience with that generation, and remember, I did it pre-COVID. There's a big disconnect between their ability to communicate with each other and those who are in that age range that I experienced yesterday, which I would say is anywhere from probably late 20s to late 50s, 60s. Um, we understood the dynamic of being online, being on Zoom, not talking over one another. Um, so, yeah. So that's what I have to say. So I'm going to put up the link to Ralda Nash's Twitch channel and YouTube, and you can kind of watch me there. Make comments here, I guess, or there. But if you're making a comment about me, make it here, of course. Um, but it was a great experience, and it's one that I'm looking forward to for the foreseeable Thursdays. And yeah, have a great day. Bye.